The night sky shimmered with the soft glow of a full moon. Lanterns swayed above cobblestone streets, casting flickering shadows on the smiling faces of villagers and travelers. It was the Moon Festival, a celebration of light and magic, where secrets often danced alongside the revelers. Music from drums and flutes echoed through the air, blending with laughter, footsteps, and the occasional bark of distant wolves. Elara moved carefully through the crowded festival, her eyes wide with wonder. She had never seen anything like this. The village near the forest's edge was alive with color and sound. But what drew her most was the forest beyond the dense, dark trees that loomed like guardians. Tales whispered that a great pack of wolves lived there, led by a king whose power was unmatched and whose presence could silence 100 voices. Elara had always been curious about the stories. She had come under the guise of visiting the festival, but secretly, she longed to see the legendary Alpha King. Her heart beat faster as she approached the edge of the crowd near the forest path, where shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. She stepped carefully, trying not to draw attention, but the cobblestones were uneven, slick from the morning dew. Her foot caught on a raised stone, and in an instant, she was falling. Her hands flailed, and her eyes widened in panic. Before she could hit the ground, strong arms caught her. She looked up, startled, and froze. Time seemed to pause around them. He was taller than anyone she had ever seen, with broad shoulders and a presence that demanded attention. His dark hair fell over sharp features, and his eyes were golden, like the heart of a flame, both terrifying and mesmerizing. The crowd around them had gone silent, as if even the air dared not move. "You are safe," he said, in a low, commanding voice that sent shivers down her spine. Elara blinked, words failing her. She felt the warmth of his arms, the steadiness of his grip. Yet, it was more than that. There was an intensity, a weight of authority, and a hidden sadness that made her chest tighten. Kaelin. The name had been whispered in stories and warnings, and now, she stood in the arms of the Alpha King himself. The pack watched from the shadows of the trees, their expressions a mixture of awe and caution. Some of them knelt slightly. Others stiffened in respect. Elara tried to pull back, but he did not release her immediately. Instead, he studied her with a gaze that seemed to see through her very soul. "You shouldn't be here," Kaelin said, his voice low but carrying across the silent crowd. "Yet, fate has brought you to me." Elara swallowed hard. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment. But there was something else. Something she could not name that made her heart beat faster. There was power in him, yes, but there was also loneliness, a burden that seemed heavier than the strongest armor. I didn't mean," she began. But Kaelin raised a hand, halting her words. "I know," he said. "Carelessness is one thing. Courage is another. And you have courage." A ripple ran through the crowd as whispers spread. Even the youngest wolves and the oldest elders sensed it. This was no ordinary meeting. The human girl had stumbled into more than an accident. She had stumbled into destiny. Kaelin finally stepped back slightly, allowing Elara to regain her balance. She brushed off her clothes, her heart still racing, but her gaze could not leave his. There was a pull, like the moon itself had tied their fates together. "Walk with me," he commanded. Elara hesitated, but curiosity and something deeper, an inexplicable trust, led her to follow. He moved through the festival like a shadow of authority, parting the crowd effortlessly. The villagers bowed, some out of fear, some out of reverence. Even the lanterns seemed to burn brighter as he passed, as though the moonlight obeyed him. They reached the edge of the forest, where the shadows thickened and the air smelled of pine and earth. Kaelin stopped, turning to face her. "This forest is older than any village," he said. "It holds secrets. Some are dangerous. Others reveal who you truly are. Elara looked into the dark woods, the silver moonlight filtering through the leaves. She felt a mixture of fear and fascination. There was magic here, ancient and untamed, and it hummed around Kalen as if acknowledging him as its master. "Why me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kalen's eyes softened, just slightly, a gesture that spoke of countless burdens carried alone. "Because you are different," he said. "You do not bow to fear, nor do you hide behind stories. You are curious, brave, and brave is dangerous in this world." Elara shivered. Not from the cold, but from the weight of his gaze, the honesty in his words, and the strange warmth that seemed to spread from his presence. She realized, in that moment, that she had stepped into a story far larger than herself, one woven with power, danger, and something she dared not name. A sudden movement in the trees made her flinch. Wolves emerged silently, circling them at a respectful distance. Their golden eyes gleamed in the moonlight, reflecting Kalen's own. It was a silent warning. Outsiders were rarely welcomed, and even rarer were they allowed to walk freely under the Alpha's protection. Elara noticed the pack's tension and instinctively stepped closer to Kalen. She did not understand why, but being near him made her feel safer than anywhere else in the world. Kalen's expression softened once more, though the golden intensity never faded. "The festival is beautiful," she said, trying to ease the tension, her voice small. "But I think the forest is even more alive than the lights." Kalen's lips curved slightly, almost imperceptibly. "The forest holds truth," he said. "And the festival? It celebrates illusion. One can hide behind masks in the light, but the dark never lies." They walked in silence for a moment, the sounds of the festival fading behind them. Elara felt the pull of something ancient in the air, a story written in shadows and moonlight. She realized she had been searching for this feeling her entire life. Danger and safety, fear and wonder, all intertwined. "You are not like the others," Kalen said finally. "Most humans fear the forest, the pack, even the moon. You are not afraid." Elara's heart skipped a beat. No one had ever looked at her this way, as if her courage or her curiosity mattered. I guess I've never had a choice," she admitted. Kalen's gaze softened again. And for a moment, the fearsome Alpha was replaced by something human, something vulnerable. "Perhaps," he said. "And yet, choices have a way of finding us, even when we think we are free." The wind rustled through the trees, and the moonlight shifted, casting silver shadows across their faces. Elara felt the pull of the moment, a connection that transcended words. She realized that whatever happened next, her life would not remain the same. Suddenly, a whisper of movement came from deeper in the forest. Kalen's posture stiffened. The wolves circled tighter, ears pricked, noses twitching. Danger was never far from the Alpha, and now, it had sensed them too. Kalen turned to her, his golden eyes sharp. "Stay close," he commanded, his voice both protective and possessive. "Tonight, nothing is as simple as it seems." Elara nodded, feeling a mixture of fear, anticipation, and something she could not name. The moonlight shimmered on Kalen's features, illuminating both the power he carried and the loneliness that shadowed him. For the first time, Elara realized the truth of the stories. Meeting the Alpha King was not just a chance encounter. It was fate, and fate had chosen her. As they disappeared into the silver-lit forest, the festival continued behind them, unaware of the quiet, unstoppable story beginning in the shadows. And in the depths of the trees, unseen eyes watched, calculating, waiting, and whispering a silent warning. The night had only just begun, The forest was alive with whispers. Moonlight spilled through the tall trees, painting the ground in silver and shadow. Every rustle of leaves, every distant snap of a twig, seemed amplified in the stillness of the night. Elara followed Kaelin closely, her heart pounding not from the fear of the forest, but from the magnetic presence of the Alpha King at her side. Kaelin moved like a shadow, silent and precise. His golden eyes scanned the darkness, alert to every movement. Wolves slipped through the underbrush, invisible until they paused to glance at him before vanishing again. Their loyalty was unquestionable. Their respect, absolute. Elara felt a shiver run through her, part awe, part fear. "You should not have come here," Kaelin said, his voice calm but edged with authority. "The forest is not a place for humans, especially ones who walk without caution. I didn't think anyone would stop me," Elara replied, trying to sound braver than she felt. "And I wanted to see it for myself." Kaelin's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. "Curiosity can be dangerous, but sometimes it is the only path to truth." Elara glanced at him. There was something in the way he spoke, the way he held himself, that made her feel like she had stepped into another world, a world where power and danger were inseparable, and where one mistake could change everything. They walked deeper into the forest, and the sounds of the festival faded into distant echoes. The only noises were the soft padding of their feet on the forest floor, and the occasional low growl of a wolf in the shadows. The air was heavy with the scent of pine and earth, mixed with something sharper, almost metallic, a reminder of the Alpha's presence and the untamed magic that lingered here. Finally, Kaelin stopped beside a clearing. The moonlight fell in a perfect circle upon the ground, illuminating a small stone altar. It was carved with ancient symbols, worn by time, but still powerful. The air hummed with energy, and Elara felt it prickling at her skin. "This is the lunar altar," Kaelin said, his voice softer now, almost reverent. "It is older than the oldest tales of the pack. Here, the Alpha King binds himself to the forest and the moon to protect the pack and maintain the balance between light and shadow." Elara stepped closer, fascinated. The symbols glowed faintly under the moonlight, as if alive. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "And dangerous, too." Kaelin's eyes met hers. And for a moment, the weight of leadership vanished, leaving only a man burdened with secrets. "It is both," he said. "Power is never without cost. And this forest, this pack, they demand loyalty, obedience, and sometimes sacrifices." Elara shivered, not from fear, but from the intensity in his gaze. She could feel the pull of the Alpha King, a force that was magnetic and unsettling all at once. There was danger in him, yes, but there was also sorrow, a loneliness she could not ignore. "Why are you showing me this?" she asked. Kaelin's expression darkened slightly. "Because you do not fear. Yet you must understand. This life, it is not for the faint of heart. And tonight, you have already chosen to walk among shadows." Elara felt a strange thrill at his words. She had expected fear, but instead, she felt alive. Her pulse quickened as she realized she was standing not just beside a powerful leader, but beside someone who carried the weight of his entire world on his shoulders and still moved with grace and authority. A sudden rustle in the underbrush made her jump. Wolves emerged silently, circling the clearing. Their eyes glowed in the moonlight, sharp and alert. Kaelin's presence seemed to calm them, though their vigilance never faltered. He stepped slightly in front of Elara, a protective barrier that made her heart tighten in ways she could not name. "These wolves, they are your guardians?" she asked. Her voice hushed. Kaelin nodded. "They are loyal, fierce, and they follow only me. Anyone who threatens the pack, or anyone under my protection, will face them." Elara glanced at the wolves, feeling both awe and apprehension. She realized that the Alpha King's power was not just in strength, but in command and authority that inspired devotion, even from creatures that could tear a human apart in an instant. "Why me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why allow me here? Among all this power?" Kalen's eyes softened, and for a moment, the mask of authority slipped. Most humans flee from what they cannot understand. You do not. You face it. You see it. And sometimes, seeing is the first step toward change. Elara felt warmth in her chest, a mixture of pride and fear. She had come here out of curiosity, but now she understood that she had stepped into something far greater. The Alpha King's gaze held a promise and a warning. Her life would never be the same again. As she looked around the clearing, she noticed symbols etched into the altar, ancient, mysterious, and powerful. "What do these mean?" she asked. Kalen crouched slightly, tracing a finger along the carvings. "These are marks of the curse and the blessing," he explained. "The Alpha binds himself to the forest and the moon to protect the pack. But the curse comes with it. Those who grow too close to the Alpha share in his pain, his destiny, his burden. Though, Elara swallowed. The weight of his words pressed on her chest. "So, anyone who gets close suffers?" Kalen's eyes met hers, golden and unwavering. "Yes, and sometimes they are lost to the world of humans forever." Elara felt fear and exhilaration mix in her chest. She knew she was risking more than she had imagined by being here, but she could not turn away. Not from him. Not from the pull of the forest, the moon, or the power that lingered between them. A sudden howl echoed through the trees, sharp and commanding. The wolves stiffened, and Kalen's posture became rigid. "The pack senses unrest," he said. "Rivals are testing boundaries tonight. They would see weakness and strike if they could." Elara instinctively stepped closer to him. "Are we in danger?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Kalen's lips curved in a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Danger is never far," he said. "But it is the brave, not the cautious, who shape destiny." Elara's chest tightened. She had never felt such intensity from another person. His presence was overwhelming, commanding, yet oddly comforting. She realized that courage was not just about facing enemies, it was about standing beside someone like Kalen, accepting the pull of fate, and daring to trust. They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the forest. The wind rustled through the leaves, carrying whispers that seemed almost like voices. Shadows shifted, and the moonlight danced across Kalen's features, highlighting both his strength and the loneliness etched into him. "Do you ever wish for a different life?" Elara asked softly, curious despite herself. Kalen's gaze softened, and for the first time, vulnerability shone in his eyes. "Every day," he admitted. "But power comes with sacrifice, and the pack depends on me. I cannot falter." Elara felt a pang of sympathy and admiration. She realized that beneath the strength, beneath the authority, there was a man weighed down by duty and sorrow. And yet, he carried it all with grace, commanding loyalty and fear in equal measure. A sudden rustle from the shadows reminded her that they were not alone. Wolves emerged, silent and alert, forming a protective circle around them. Kalen stepped in front of her, a barrier between danger and safety. "You must understand," he said, his voice low and steady. "The world you have stepped into, it is not simple. It is full of light and shadow, of loyalty and betrayal, of power and curse. And now, you are part of it." Elara's heart raced. She had come seeking adventure, curiosity, and perhaps a glimpse of legend, but she had found something far more profound, a connection to a man whose life was entwined with magic, danger, and destiny. As the moon rose higher, Kaelin looked at her, golden eyes burning with an intensity that left her breathless. "Stay close," he whispered. "The night is not yet done. And the forest, the pack, the moon, all have stories to tell. Stories you will be part of." Elara nodded, a mixture of fear and excitement surging through her. She had stepped into a world she barely understood, yet she could not turn back. The Alpha King's presence had changed everything. She felt the pull of destiny, of fate, and of something deeper, something she dared not name. And in the shadows of the forest, unseen eyes watched them. A rival's eyes glimmered, hungry with jealousy and ambition. The pack was restless, and the night had only just begun. The moon had climbed higher in the sky, casting silver light that seemed to breathe life into the shadows of the forest. Ilara's heart still raced from the night's journey, but a strange calm had settled over her as she walked beside Kaelin. The forest hummed with quiet magic, and every rustle of leaves seemed to carry a warning, a secret, or an invitation. They reached a clearing where the trees parted to reveal an ancient stone circle. Moss covered the edges, and the carvings glimmered faintly under the moonlight, as if they were alive. Kaelin paused at the center, his gaze fixed on the symbols etched into the stone. "This place," he said, his voice low and reverent, "is where the Alpha King's heart is bound to the moon. The curse and the blessing reside here. It is where power, loyalty, and destiny meet." Ilara stepped closer, studying the carvings. She felt a shiver run through her. There was something almost alive in the stones, an energy that thrummed through the air. "It feels strange," she whispered. Kaelin's golden eyes softened as he looked at her. "It does watch, and it knows. The moon sees all. The forest remembers all. And the pack obeys what the moon commands." He paused, then added, "And now, you are part of it." Ilara's breath caught. She had sensed a connection to this place, to Kaelin, and to the power that radiated from him, but hearing it confirmed was both thrilling and terrifying. "Part of it? What do you mean?" Kaelin stepped closer, his hand brushing hers, not a touch of romance yet, but one of intention, weight, and subtle promise. "The Alpha King bears the burden of the pack, the forest, and the curse. Anyone who grows close to him shares a piece of that burden, whether they wish it or not. It is the way of the moon." Ilara's heart pounded. She had come seeking curiosity and adventure, but now she realized she had stumbled into something far more complex. "A curse?" she asked softly. "What kind of curse?" "Cruz." Kaelin's gaze darkened, shadows falling across his face. "A curse of power and pain. The Alpha carries the weight of the pack's survival, of their loyalty, and of the forest's secrets. It grants strength and longevity, but it also binds the heart and soul. Those who care for the Alpha risk sharing that pain, losing themselves to the night." Ilara swallowed hard. The weight of his words pressed on her chest. She looked around the circle, feeling the presence of unseen eyes, wolves hidden among the trees, spirits of the forest, the silent whisper of the moon. All of it seemed to test her courage. "And you carry it willingly?" she asked, awe and concern mingling in her voice. Kaelin nodded. "I have no choice. The pack's survival depends on me. And the curse is the only way to protect them. But it is a lonely path. A dangerous one." Ilara's chest tightened with sympathy and a strange longing. She wanted to reach out, to comfort him, yet the distance between them was vast, filled with duty, power, and the weight of ancient magic. Still, she felt drawn to him, as if the moon itself had pulled her steps toward this moment. A sudden rustle in the shadows broke the stillness. Wolves emerged silently, forming a protective circle around the clearing. Their golden eyes reflected the moonlight, sharp and vigilant. Kalen's posture stiffened, alert and commanding. "They are restless tonight," he said. "The rival factions sense change. They test boundaries. And tonight, they test courage." Ilara instinctively moved closer to him. "Are we in danger?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kalen's gaze swept the forest, calculating and precise. "Danger is always near. But it is not the threat outside that worries me most. It is the uncertainty within." Ilara frowned, confused. "Within?" Kalen turned toward her, his golden eyes locking onto hers. "You have stepped into this world, into this power, and now, your presence affects it. How you act, what you feel, the choices you make, they echo through the pack, the forest, and even the curse itself." Ilara's pulse quickened. She realized that this was more than a story of power. It was a test of her heart, her courage, and her ability to stand beside Kalen. She felt the thrill of fear and fascination intertwining a dangerous, intoxicating mixture she could not resist. Kalen extended a hand, silent and deliberate. "Come closer," he said. "I need you to see everything, to understand what you have stepped into." Ilara hesitated for a heartbeat, then took his hand. It was firm, grounding, yet warm with life. She felt a rush of electricity, not physical, but emotional, an acknowledgement that their fates were entwined. He led her to the center of the circle. The carvings glowed faintly as they stepped inside, illuminating patterns that told stories of past Alpha Kings, of battles fought, and of hearts lost to the curse. Ilara traced a finger along the carvings, feeling the energy pulse beneath her touch. "This is the history of the pack," Kalen said, "and of the curse that protects it. Every Alpha before me bore this weight alone. Every heart touched by the Alpha felt it." Ilara's gaze lifted to him. "And now, me?" Kalen's lips curved slightly, almost imperceptibly. "You chose to step into this world. And now, the forest, the moon, and the pack acknowledge you. You are part of it, whether you wish it or not." Ilara felt a mixture of fear, awe, and excitement. She had imagined adventure, but this was far more than she had ever dreamed. She realized that bravery was not just about facing danger, it was about embracing the unknown, trusting in a connection that transcended reason, and daring to stand beside someone who carried the weight of worlds on his shoulders. A howl shattered the night, sharp and commanding. The wolves stiffened, ears pricked, and Kalen's posture shifted, alert and protective. "The rivals are testing us," he said. "They will strike soon. You must be ready." Ilara's heart pounded. She had never faced such danger before, yet standing beside Kalen, she felt a courage she had not known she possessed. "I'll stay," she said firmly. I won't leave." Kalen's golden eyes softened, a hint of something vulnerable showing through. "You will feel the burden, the pain, the loneliness, as I do, and yet you choose to stay." Ilara nodded, her chest tight with emotion. She did not fully understand what that meant, but she felt the pull of destiny, the magnetic force that had drawn her into this forest, this world, and into Kalen's life. A sudden movement from the shadows alerted them. A wolf emerged, eyes glowing unnaturally, more aggressive than the others. Kalen stepped in front of Ilara, body taut, muscles ready. "A warning," he said, voice low and dangerous. "The rivals test courage. Fear, weakness, will be exploited." Ilara felt a thrill of fear mixed with exhilaration. She had always wondered what it would be like to face true danger, and now she understood. But more than fear, she felt a deep connection to Kalen, a bond forged in the silver light of the moon and the shared pulse of courage. Kalen's hand found hers again, this time more deliberate, anchoring her. "Stay close," he said. "The night is not yet over, and the curse, it awakens with the full moon." Elara nodded, her heart swelling with a mix of dread and anticipation. She had crossed a threshold she could not undo. The forest, the pack, the moon, and the Alpha King himself had claimed her attention, her courage, and perhaps, her heart. The wind rustled through the leaves, carrying whispers of old magic and untold stories. The wolves circled tighter, their eyes sharp, alert, unyielding. Kalen's golden gaze swept over them, commanding and protective, yet softened by the presence of the human who dared to stand by his side. Elara realized, in that moment, that the bond forming between them was more than attraction. It was fate, danger, trust, and an unspoken promise. She was no longer merely a visitor. She had become part of a story older than the village, older than the forest, and tied to a curse older than time. The moonlight shimmered on Kalen's features, illuminating the strength, the sorrow, and the power that defined him. Elara felt both fear and longing, fear of the dangers that awaited, and longing for the connection that had begun in the forest's silver glow. The forest was alive with tension. Shadows stretched long beneath the silver moon, and the distant rustle of leaves carried a warning. Elara's heart raced as she moved beside Kalen, feeling the weight of the night pressing around them. The howl she had heard earlier still echoed in her mind, a reminder that the rival faction was near, and that danger was not just coming, it had already arrived. Kalen's golden eyes glowed in the moonlight. Every muscle in his body was taut with readiness. He moved silently, yet his presence alone commanded the forest. Wolves emerged from the shadows, their eyes sharp, their loyalty unwavering. They were the Alpha King's guardians, and tonight, they would not allow the pack or the forest to be threatened. "Elara," Kalen said, his voice low and steady, "you must stay close. This night will test courage, loyalty, and heart. The rivals are strong, but the forest and the moon are stronger. Yet, danger waits for those who falter." Elara nodded, gripping his hand instinctively. She had followed him into this world, into this curse, and into the heart of the Alpha King's power. Fear surged through her, but so did resolve. She would not leave. She would stand beside him, no matter the cost. From the darkness, a rustling grew louder, sharper, deliberate. Figures stepped into the clearing, wolves from rival factions, their eyes filled with ambition and jealousy, their movements precise and threatening. Kalen's stance widened, protective and commanding. "Rivals," he growled softly, his voice carrying the authority of a king. "Tonight, you test what cannot be broken." The rival wolves advanced, but Kalen's pack moved as one, forming a protective circle around him and Elara. The forest itself seemed to respond. The wind shifting, the moonlight intensifying, the shadows thickening. The air hummed with energy, the power of the Alpha, the pack, and the curse intertwining. Elara felt the pull of the magic. The curse Kalen carried was not just a burden, it was a shield, a force of life and death. She felt it brush against her heart, testing her courage, her loyalty, her resolve. And in that moment, she understood. She was no longer merely a witness. She was part of this world, part of this power, part of Kalen. A rival wolf lunged forward, teeth bared, but Kalen moved faster. His hands caught the wolf's shoulders, and with a controlled strength, he pushed it back. The pack closed in, coordinated and precise. Elara watched, awestruck and terrified, as Kalen commanded the scene with an authority that was absolute, yet tempered by a rare humanity. "Do not fear," he said, turning to her, eyes softening. "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is facing it, together." Elara nodded, her chest swelling with determination. She took a step forward, moving beside him, feeling the pulse of the forest, the pack, and the moon through her very being. She realized now that fear and bravery were intertwined, and that in standing beside Kaelin, she had chosen bravery. The rival wolves regrouped, circling, testing the Alpha King and the human who dared to walk with him. One of them, larger and more aggressive than the rest, stepped forward, its eyes blazing with challenge. Kaelin's golden gaze met it, unwavering and commanding. "You test loyalty," he said, voice low and dangerous. "And loyalty cannot be broken." The wolf lunged, and the fight began. Kaelin moved with a grace and power that seemed almost supernatural. He was fast, precise, unstoppable. Yet Elara noticed something subtle. He fought not with anger, but with purpose, protecting the pack, the forest, and her. A rival wolf broke through the circle, aiming for Elara. Instinctively, she moved aside. But Kaelin's hand shot out, catching her and pulling her behind him. "Stay close," he said, his voice calm yet commanding. "I will not let harm touch you." The fight raged around them, shadows twisting in the moonlight, the sound of teeth, claws, and growls echoing through the forest. And in the center of it all, Kaelin and Elara stood together, one the Alpha King, master of the pack and curse, the other a human, brave and unyielding. In a moment of calm, Kaelin glanced at Elara. His golden eyes softened, and a rare vulnerability appeared. "You are extraordinary," he whispered. "Not because you stand beside me, but because you choose to face the night, the curse, and still trust." Elara's chest tightened. I trust you," she said. "I trust you because you are not just power. You are something more. Something human." Kaelin's gaze softened. A mixture of admiration and something deeper. Something he had not allowed himself to feel in years. The moonlight reflected on his face, revealing both the strength and the loneliness he carried. And in that silver glow, Elara understood the truth of the stories. The Alpha King's heart was as powerful as his body, and perhaps even more vulnerable. The rival wolf advanced again, larger and stronger, aiming to end the fight. Kaelin moved, but this time, he did not act alone. Elara stepped forward, her courage blooming. She raised her voice, a clear, steady call. And the forest seemed to respond. Wolves from Kaelin's pack surged forward, coordinated and unstoppable, driving the rivals back. The air shimmered with magic, the curse of the Alpha King awakening fully under the full moon. Elara felt the energy flow through her, brushing against her heart, testing her courage, her loyalty, her bond with Kaelin. She realized she was no longer separate from the power, she was part of it, entwined with him, the forest, and the pack. With a final, commanding growl, Kaelin faced the largest rival wolf, golden eyes blazing. "Leave," he said, "or face the wrath of the pack and the moon itself." The rival hesitated, then slowly retreated, recognizing the force they could not challenge. The forest quieted, the wolves returning to their positions, the night calm once more. Elara let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. Kaelin turned to her, his expression softer now, almost human. "You have courage," he said, his voice filled with something unspoken but powerful. "And bravery such as yours, it changes everything." Elara's heart swelled. I didn't expect to be part of this," she admitted. "But I want to stay. I want to face it. With you." Kaelin's golden eyes met hers. And in that gaze, she saw both power and trust, loneliness and hope. He reached out, taking her hand fully this time, holding it as if anchoring her to the world, to the night, to him. "The curse," he said softly, "is not just a burden, it is a test of heart, and tonight, you have passed it." Ilara felt a warmth spread through her chest, a connection that was more than magic, more than courage. It was bond, trust, and perhaps the first stirrings of love. Kalen's gaze swept over the forest, the pack, and the moonlight. The night is quiet. For now, he said. But the pack will remember this. The forest will remember this. And so will you. Ilara smiled softly. I will remember, she said. Every moment. Every fear. Every heartbeat. Kalen's lips curved, almost imperceptibly. Then, let us walk together, he said. The moon has chosen us both, and destiny has tied our fates. Hand in hand, they walked through the silver-lit forest, the wolves following silently, a protective shadow around them. The danger had passed for now, but the night had left its mark. They had faced the rival faction, felt the pull of the curse, and discovered a bond neither of them could deny. Ilara realized something profound. Courage was not the absence of fear. It was standing beside someone, even when the darkness pressed close, even when destiny tested you, even when the heart could tremble. And she had chosen that courage, chosen to stand with Kalen, chosen to be part of a story older than herself. The moon hung high, silver and eternal, illuminating the forest and casting a gentle light over the Alpha King and the human who had dared to step into his world. They walked silently, yet their hearts spoke in ways words could not convey. Trust, courage, longing, and destiny intertwined, binding them together more tightly than any curse or power ever could. For the first time in years, Kalen allowed himself a small, real smile. The pack may bow to me, he whispered, voice low and intimate. But my heart belongs to you alone. Ilara's hand tightened around his, her pulse echoing his own. She felt the magic, the bond, the curse, and the promise of the moon. She realized that their journey was only beginning, but the first step had been taken. From the shadows, unseen eyes still watched, yet even they could sense the change. The forest, the pack, and the moon had witnessed something rare. Bravery, trust, and a bond that could challenge fate itself. And in that silver light, with the forest breathing around them, and the pack silent in respect, Kalen and Ilara stepped into the night partners, allies, and perhaps the beginning of something timeless.